it's the oldest committee, the standing committee in the United States Congress, 1789 when it started, and there's been ebbs and flows in the concentration of power in that committee, but it's still very much the most powerful committee in the United States Congress. It has the broadest jurisdiction and the most influence over the most diverse set of policy issues. My number one priority for West Texas was to get cotton back into the Farm Bill safety net and to pass a good farm bill. Well, mission accomplished for my first term. Farm bills generally come around every 4 or 5 years, so we pretty much set ag policy for the foreseeable future. Now, farm bills are more about sustainability of ag and rural communities. Just think about it like that, sustainability. But growth and prosperity will come when we get a bigger slice of the global pie. That is, expanding international markets through free and fair trade deals. So the Committee of Jurisdiction for Trade is Ways and Means. So it's a great segue after finishing a farm bill to be a champion for agriculture at the Ways and Means table. I've said from the outset of my campaign and Matt's heard me ad nauseum, talk about the long-term threat of the national debt. If our country enters into a sovereign debt crisis on account of our inability to get control of our spending, then all bets are off. It's going to impact farm bills. So it doesn't matter if you're on the ag committee or not. If you can't reduce mandatory spending and bend that curve and have a pathway to solvency, then where's Social Security going to be for my generation? It's insolvent in 10 years. What about health care? So I would just say that at a regional level, we talked about trade, at a national level, I think over 50% of the entire federal budget, about $2 trillion, is spent and accounted for under the jurisdiction of the Ways and Means Committee. So I'm looking forward to being sort of a new generation policymaker on that front, because it's my generation and our kids that are going to be left holding the bags, empty bags, if this thing were to get really upside down. And no one knows when, but they think that this decade is going to be critical to get back on good fiscal footing. I think we've got to get serious, okay? Do I think the border wall is the panacea for all that's coming across the border that we'd like to prevent from coming? Do I think it's the silver bullet for border security? No, I do not. I think it's a key component. I think it's a basic component, but I think you got to have boots on the ground. You got to have technology. And by the way, the wall makes sense where it makes sense, and where it doesn't, I'm not interested in spending money just to claim some political victory. I think I'm glad that the president is now at a place where his border wall is really physical barriers of all kinds where they make sense, and not some concrete wall across 2,000 miles of border. And I think there were people that thought, that's what he had in mind when he campaigned. I think it became almost symbolic of border security, but now it's the border security professionals, the Homeland Security experts that are telling us these are the places we need it, and these are the types of barriers. So what I would just tell you is I'm absolutely in favor of physical barriers where they make sense, and I stand with the president that any border security comprehensive proposal must include that. And I'll just go one more step further. Where we've deployed physical barriers in a strategic way in El Paso, San Diego, Tucson, et cetera, they have curbed the inflow of illegal people and contraband by 90+%. anywhere we could deploy resources in our own organization to achieve our mission and get 90% return, we would take it. Again, I think this has been unfortunately caught up in the political noise, but when you boil it down to it, it makes to me perfect sense, and logic and reason would suggest that you got to have physical barriers as a component. If the Democrats and my colleagues and the Democrat leadership does not begin to show movement towards a negotiated solution and compromise on their part, I think the president ought to declare a national emergency, because it is. We say it's a crisis, it's humanitarian, it's national security, and he ought to declare it. He's already has the military down there. I've read the law on it will be challenged in the courts, but I've read the law, and I think he's got every legal test and element satisfied to do it. And if I were him, I'd say, I have tried, and I've tried again, and I've bent over backwards to get some traction in a negotiation. And that's the problem, Jill, with making statements like walls are immoral. Because once you say that, how do you get off that position? So I think ultimately he's going to have to just declare the national emergency, turn the government back on, give some relief to these folks who are victims of this, no doubt, and build the physical barriers where you need to build them, and let's get on with it. And then the next discussion is going to be, what do we do with more comprehensive border immigration, is what I'd say. Magnets, loopholes, DACA. Then we'll start there, and we'll have that thing already satisfied. And as a conservative, we will have satisfied it without having to give a single thing to Democrats. I mean, I don't think that's the ideal thing. I wish our Congress could work in a more constructive manner, because I think it would give I think it's better for our country and for our people if we do that. But national security, I'd ring the bell here in a little bit. I'd ring the bell. I don't know how many weeks, but it won't be months for me to really be banging that table.